New England Patriots are going to be without the services of yet another of their top pass rushers on Sunday against the Buffalo Bills. But will it be a sign of things to come? Stick around. You're about to be locked into this pregame episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all of you Foxborough faithful. Thank you once again for making Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage. Also, be sure to download, subscribe, and follow Locked On Patriots wherever you get your podcasts to ensure that you get the latest episode as soon as it's available. I'm your host, Mike Debate. I cover your New England Patriots for Patriots Country of Sports Illustrated, so reach out to me and let me know what's on your mind on Twitter, on X, on the Bird app, whatever you're calling it these days, at MDABATENFL. While you're out there showing some love to Locked On Patriots social media style, be sure to follow our account there as well at LO_Patriots. And Pats fans, don't forget that this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use all lowercase code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Patriots fans, we are just hours away from your New England Patriots taking the field at Gillette Stadium for a Week 7 matchup against the 4-2 Buffalo Bills, the reigning AFC East division champions, the division leaders right now, and a team that's favored, according to our good friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook, by 8.5 points. It's not going to be an easy one for the Pats, but the road to rebuild has to start somewhere, and that somewhere could be this Sunday at Gillette Stadium. Now, the Patriots did get some good injury news prior to this game because they will have some much-needed reinforcements in their defensive backfield. They'll also be without a very key member of this defense, and I'm going to get into that in just a moment. But also, we're going to be going behind enemy lines and taking a look at some of the key injuries for the Buffalo Bills in this one. We'll also be taking a look at some of the key injuries for your New England Patriots. And folks, you definitely don't want injury advice from me. It is not my area of expertise. Luckily for us, our guest today is an expert in the field of sports medicine. Dr. Kyle Trimble, an old friend of ours, and of course, you know him from his contributions to Joe Marino's Locked On Bills. He will be here in just a moment to talk about the injuries to Buffalo, the injuries to New England, and what it might mean for the product we're about to watch on the field today. A lot of injury news and a lot of interesting information on the way, so stay locked in. You are not going to want to miss this one. But let's get back to the Patriots that will be on the field. And on Saturday, we found out that second-year cornerback Jack Jones, who had been sidelined for the Pats' first 6 games due to a hamstring injury, officially activated from injured reserve. And this is great news for the Patriots, folks. I still expect J.C. Jackson and Jonathan Jones to be your 2 primary starting cornerbacks, with Miles Bryant chipping in the slot. But having Jack back in that secondary is huge. This is a young, aggressive, ball-hawking cornerback, and if he can cause some disruption in the Bills' passing game, it's only going to be good things for the New England Patriots. So it's good to welcome Jack back to the field. It's the injury news not all good for the New England Patriots. Riley Reiff, unfortunately, will go back onto injured reserve with yet another knee injury. It looks less likely by the day, folks, that we're going to get to see Riley Reiff on a football field again for the New England Patriots. This season continues to be riddled by injury, and that means a lot more pressure being placed on that offensive line. For Darian Lowe, Sidy Sow, Antonio Mafi, all are going to have to step up and play vital roles in the Patriots' offensive line if they hope to keep that Buffalo pass rush and that defense on its heels. So, again, a very, very difficult task, and it's made even more difficult now with the absence of Riley Reiff. But Patriots are also going to be missing another one of their top pass rushers. As if missing Matthew Judon was not enough for this team to overcome, they're going to be without the services of Josh Uche, who was ruled out on Friday with a foot injury. Now, the Patriots are currently at 1-5, folks, and Josh Uche is about to enter the final months of his contract with the New England Patriots. A lot of people expected him to get an extension earlier this offseason, even into this season. But after an 11.5 sack performance last season, Josh hasn't quite lived up to that billing so far this year. 2 sacks in his first 6 games, and New England really hasn't been using him as anything more than a sub-rusher in passing situations. So if they're going to spend big money on someone, it's looking unlikely that it's going to be Josh Uche. And that became a little more compounded this week when Fox Sports' Henry McKenna reported that the two sides have yet to have any contract discussions during the season, and that it's looking likely that Uche will test free agent waters when the offseason begins. Now, you have to wonder whether or not New England might look to move Josh. He's not going to be playing on Sunday, which means that he can't enhance his trade value, but he also can't hurt it. And even though Josh's season has not been what everyone hoped it would be, there are still a lot of teams that would be interested in bringing in his services. After all, when he is right and he's healthy, he's one of the league's most talented young pass rushers. I would keep a sharp eye on this one, folks. Even with Josh nursing the foot injury, it still doesn't mean he can't be moved. The collective bargaining agreement allows for it now in the NFL. So this is one to watch, especially if the Patriots fall to the Bills this weekend and fall to 1-6. That means getting rid of assets. And as much as I love Josh Uche, and I have from the moment they drafted him, but football is a business, and if Josh Uche is able to bring in a valuable asset in return, you have to think the Patriots are going to be willing to listen at the very least. Folks, it is a bleak injury situation for New England, but Buffalo has some injuries of their own to be watching for on the field on Sunday. And in just a moment, my good friend, Dr. Kyle Trimble, doctor of physical therapy and publisher of the site bangedupbills.com, is going to help us keep our friends close and our enemies closer. You will not want to miss what Kyle has to say, so stay locked in to the Locked On Patriots podcast, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On listeners, caring for the safety and health of you and those you love is the most important thing in your life. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world today, and it's important to be prepared in the face of emergencies like natural disasters, or if you're traveling and you're unsure if you're going to be able to reach a doctor or pharmacy. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why there's the Jase case. The Jase case is a personalized emergency medication kit that contains 5 essential antibiotics that treat the most common and potentially deadly bacterial infections. And now, Jase Medical offers customizability for your Jase case with dozens of potentially life-saving add-on medications. That's right, you can choose the medications that best fit you and your family's unique needs. Jase is continually working to expand their medication offerings, including recently adding ivermectin as an option in the Jase case. Jase handles everything from online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication and delivery, and ongoing consultation and care. Don't get caught unprepared. Go to jasemedical.com and enter the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for a $20 discount on your order. That's promo code LOCKEDON at jasemedical.com, jasemedical.com. Locked On listeners, snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there is no better time to get in on the action than right this minute. Their app is so easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and so much more. Don't delay, do it today. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Patriots fans, thank you once again for making Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage and hopefully your first listen every day. And joining us here today to give us the rundown on the extensive list of walking wounded for your New England Patriots and give us a little recon on the Buffalo Bills is Doctor of Physical Therapy, the publisher of BangedUpBills.com, as well as someone who studies injuries all throughout the AFC East and provides excellent coverage for all 4 teams in the division. My good friend, Dr. Kyle Trimble, joins me here today. Kyle, thanks so much for joining me, and welcome back to Locked On Patriots.
Mike, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm ready to talk about some injuries.
Absolutely, and we're definitely ready to hear your wisdom and counsel on the subject. We desperately need it here in New England because, as you can tell, it is an extensive laundry list of injuries that the Patriots have, and it really has been tough times here for the Pats in regard to their health. Really, it's been tough times in regard to everything else, Kyle, but we're not going to get into that right now. We're going to leave our discussion today to the health of Patriots and Bills. And, you know, Kyle, they say keep your friends close and your enemies closer. So here on Locked On Patriots, that means the Bills are going to be up first. We start with the obvious, and Patriots fans still have a great deal of affinity for Damian Harris. And obviously, we all know scary situation last week against the New York Giants. Damian taken from the field due to a neck injury. The latest on him seems to indicate that he's going to be okay, but have you heard anything additionally on Damian's injury or a potential timetable for recovery?
Not too much more than what you had said. He left the game late in the third quarter. He ran into the back of the offensive line and he hit his head against somebody. And he kind of went down, tried getting back up, and realized he couldn't really move. And at that point, the training staff realized there was something going on there. Got him on the backboard out to the hospital for further evaluation. They said he had full feeling in extremities and he was able to move everything. And so he was cleared and released from the hospital the next day, positive, especially after it's always scary to see somebody go off the field on the backboard. And of course, the DeMar Hamlin situation last year, very, very scary to see. So, but he's moving action. They did place him in concussion protocol, which is often what we see happen after those type of injuries. So when we get carted off on the backboard, you got to wonder if there's some type of cord contusion, spinal cord contusion. So while that's not an actual concussion, you want to make sure you slowly reintroduce contact and activities so not to aggravate anything else in there. And it's very possible he could have sustained a concussion at that time too, but the more the spinal cord, make sure that's intact and he has all feeling and whatnot. So he hasn't practiced this week. It wasn't expected that he's going to play this Sunday. And as for a timeline, it's hard to say. Some guys bounce back, after a week. With Dane Jackson last year, he had a real scary hit in week 2 against the Titans, took a week off and then kind of got right back to it. And there's other guys that sometimes take a little bit longer. So it just depends on how his body's responding. But anytime you see a guy get released from hospital, feeling and movement, that's always a positive sign.
Yeah, especially with Damian. We were glad to see that the reports were positive initially. Patriots fans know all too well the scariness of a hit like that, especially with what happened to Isaiah Bolden earlier on in the preseason. We're definitely glad to see that Damian will be making a recovery, and his return to the field obviously secondary when it comes to his health and well-being moving forward. So thank you for that update. Once again, a lot of Patriots fans still have a lot of affinity for Damian, and I know they appreciate the update. Kyle will dive right into the injuries that the Bills are listing, and obviously Josh Allen's name popping up on an injury report, regardless of where it is or how it's there, is going to draw attention. We heard about the right shoulder, suffering his injury to the right shoulder in Sunday night's win over the Giants, but he was a full participant on Thursday. Our mutual friend Joe Marino joined me here yesterday on Crossover Thursday, said that Josh essentially said it's not much to concern about, maybe a little tightness, maybe a little stiffness, but nothing that'll keep him from the game. But should the Pats expect to see a full-strength Josh Allen on Sunday, knowing what you know about this injury?
He might not be 100%. It's hard to say any guy to be 100% at this time of the season already, but absolutely. I still expect him to be playing pretty close to his prior level of play. Just to recap for the injury in the second quarter, hard hit down from, I think it was Dexter Lawrence, drove the shoulder right into the ground. You could see him grab for it, and then later in the broadcast, he's kind of working at the shoulder. And then even right after the next play, he took another hit to the shoulder. That hit also brought him into the medical tent for 2 plays for a concussion check, and he continued to play through the game and was doing fine with all that stuff. So he went for x-rays after the game, and they're looking at likely AC joint sprain, which is how that presented when he kind of fell, what they're looking at. So he is limited on Wednesday, able to practice a full on Thursday. Sprains, and sometimes the accuracy does dip a little bit. We saw this a few years ago when Josh Allen was playing against the Oakland Raiders or Las Vegas, whoever it was at that time. And so he suffered it as non-thrower, and his accuracy dropped quite a bit. It was down like 63%, I believe, for the first game, and then 51% for the second game. Keep in mind, he played Tennessee when they were really good, and then the game. But you do see accuracy be affected by joint sprain. So that's a concern I do see coming into Sunday, though. He might be able to sling the ball around. Is his accuracy going to suffer? He will play because he can get injection in the shoulder and all right through that elbow injury initially right after last year. So no concern about playing, but I'm concerned about accuracy and maybe if he takes another hit to the shoulder.
And of course, last but not least, you look at the Buffalo Bills injury report, and a name that is obviously conspicuous by his absence is Von Miller. We know that he's returned from a very difficult injury last year, has been on a limited snap count, coming back in, trying to get his feet back under him. Obviously, a dangerous pass rusher, one of the best in the league when he's at full strength. What should Patriots fans expect from Von this week? Do you expect a limited snap count? You think maybe he might see a little bit more against Mac Jones in this offensive line? How's he looking, and what are your thoughts on him and his status for the Sunday?
Well, for Von Miller to come back as quick as he did at his age, ACL tear, everything else like that, it's pretty remarkable. He did have a little setback in the summertime, some type of muscle strain that kept him out for a few weeks in training camp, which had that not happened, could he have been ready week one? Maybe. But they started to get him back in the swing last week against Jacksonville, and he played in 20 snaps, and they were smart to cut him off. And even though the Bills need him late in the game, they said, nope, we're going to keep it to our plan, kept him in 20 snaps. This past week against Giants, they moved up to 27 snaps, which was about a 33% increase. And so we're probably going to see more of an increase from that next time. So you're looking at 30, 35 snaps and whatever the math works out for that. Because it's not just the snaps they're looking at total workload throughout the week. So I'm sure during the week, even though he's not in the injury report, they're still making sure that his body can adapt and slowly ramp up since the training camp to really work up into that peak performance. So I do expect him to continue to ramp up, see more time on the defensive end. As for performance, I mean, Mac Jones has to keep his but I don't see Von Miller really getting in there unless he's really beating the offensive line very badly, which it's possible, and we'll get into with the offensive line injuries with the Patriots. But he's looking human right now. Once again, 34, coming off a second ACL tear. We're going to see him look more like Von Miller in the later half of the season, but if it's not going to be Von Miller, it's going to be Greg Rousseau who's working through a right foot injury. If it's not, Greg Rousseau, it's going to be AJ Epinesa. I mean, there's other guys coming off the edge there. So I wouldn't be worrying too much about Von Miller. Keep your eyes out for him, but the rest of the defensive line is still, which is not good if you're a Patriots fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Epinesa and Rousseau, definitely formidable defensive ends, both on the injury report on Thursday, folks, but both full participants. Obviously, Epinesa with the quad and Rousseau with the foot injury. Those guys, if they are at full participation and at full strength, the Patriots still have their hands full in what has been a dismal season in New England, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And Kyle, we're going to continue in that mode in just a moment because we've kept our friends close, our enemies closer, but now we're going to get into familiar territory for all of you Patriots fans, and that is the Patriots' daunting list of walking wounded and the more than almost 24 players listed on their injury report this week. Kyle and I are not going to break down the whole list, but we're going to break down the notables in just a moment when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast continues, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On listeners, football season is here, and there is no better time to use PrizePicks, the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. In fact, they're the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including all those pros and sharks out there, you pick more than or less than on a 2 to 6 player stat projection and watch the winnings roll in. And here's the best part, you're going to love this. With PrizePicks reboot policy, your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured for NFL games and for college football top 25 matchups. If you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with injury insurance. And if you're a Patriots fan, you know all about the value of that injury insurance. So don't delay, do it today. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. That's a first deposit match up to $100 by going to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Don't forget to use the promo code LockedOnNFL. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Patriots fans, I know watching your favorite team in Foxborough lately has been a little difficult to digest. But that doesn't mean you should have to go through game day without your favorite snacks and delicious treats. Why root for your team on an empty stomach? Order on DoorDash and save on football watch party favorites. All of your favorite restaurants and stores, from retail to grocery, they're all on the DoorDash app, so you can shop everything you need to get game day ready. You can even get prepared before game day. Stock up on your favorite appetizers and order all your tailgate gear on DoorDash and then get ready to watch your team win. What could be more New England than Shaw's Supermarkets? Guess what, folks? They're on DoorDash, and you can get everything you need for the game, from prepared foods to groceries and even some pretty snazzy Pats gear. And it'll all be ready for you and waiting for you at your doorstep. So don't delay. Do it today. Act now and get 50% off, up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order. That's when you download the DoorDash app and enter the code LOCKED23. Subject to change, terms apply, so don't forget. Use the code LOCKED23, LOCKED23, for 50% off, up to a $10 value on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and spend $15 or more. Subject to change, terms apply.
Pats fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots. And the wisdom and counsel meter no longer exists. Providing insight only he can provide here on Locked On Patriots is my good friend, Doctor of Physical Therapy and the publisher of BangedUpBills.com, Dr. Kyle Trimble, an expert in all areas of injury when it comes to the AFC East. And he's given us a Bills injury report. And now he's about to break down the laundry list of injuries of your New England Patriots. And Kyle, before we get into the extensive list that the Patriots have published the last couple of days, which really has been the talk of the town here in New England, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask for a pulse check on two injuries that unfortunately set the Patriots back majorly, especially on defense. Matthew Judon, torn biceps tendon. Initial reaction or initial diagnosis was that he may be able to return in December. Christian Gonzalez, torn labrum, out for the season, we're assuming. These types of injuries obviously are delicate. It's all about recovery. It's all about the individual, but it's all about, obviously, the rehab. I guess my question is more about Judon, because we're assuming at this point that Christian is going to sit out the entire season. Is it still realistic, or is it realistic to expect Matthew Judon back around December? And if so, what type of Matthew Judon should we expect on the field?
That's a good question. Judon, I know that they've been putting return to play timelines as early as 2 months. And that's really surprising, because most of the literature I found, and this is coming both from research and professional experience, having worked with that injury, usually they take longer, closer to 6 months. Now, once again, normal people, I know that they can accelerate those timelines for NFL players, get them back out there. 2 months, I think, is really aggressive. I know there's lots of toys and things like that have, and it's all ultimately comes down to what the surgeon says too, what he can do. Even if it comes back in 3 months, maybe that puts him closer to around week 17, week 18, if the Patriots are in the playoff hunt. Even when he does come back, brace, because he wants to make sure that he stops any hyperextension of the elbow. He wants to make sure that he can provide extra support, so he's not putting extra stress on the medial side of the elbow too, where the UCL sits at. So even when he does come back, I would expect him to struggle wrapping up tackles. I would have him have difficulty shedding any blockers, trying to get around the edge if he's lining up on the edge. I would not expect a 100% Matthew Judon, though. his feet are still going to work. His mind's still going to work. He's still getting himself in position, but he's just not going to be the same tackler and whatnot to get into the backfield if he does get back there. So it's not going to look great, but if you get Matthew Judon back when you're in a playoff push, that's going to help you in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's excellent information. And depending on where the Patriots are in the standings, depending on what they're playing for at this point, you have to wonder whether or not that time comes and Matthew says, you know what, let me do what I need to do and be ready to give it a go in 2024 at full strength, as opposed to trying to come back in 2023 at maybe less than what he's normally playing at. So interesting and very good information, Kyle. Thank you. I know our listeners will appreciate that. And bottom line, Matthew Judon is not going to be back on the field in the immediate future. The Patriots right now dealing with a lot of players that are banged up that are in their immediate future. And some of the more pressing injuries to this team, Kyle, are happening along the offensive line. Riley Reiff, earlier this week, we talked to Bill Belichick. Riley was obviously suffering with a knee injury that kept him out for the first few games on injured reserve. He gets activated, and apparently now he's dealing with a different knee injury. In the circles that you run in and being, analyzing these injuries, what have you heard on Riley's injury about maybe being different than the one that he has right now? Or is this kind of news to you as it was to all of us earlier this week when we talked to Bill?
That's definitely news to me. I keep my tabs on the AFC East, the New England Patriots. I follow the beat reporters up there too, and that's not something I had come across earlier. Prior, to give some context, he had suffered a right knee injury game. It sounded like it was either a high ankle or an MCL sprain, which is a pretty similar mechanism. It sounded more like the MCL sprain, which put him on the injury reserve for first 4 weeks. Comes back, and like you said, it's an injury. So he might have done something else in there, especially if the knee injury is more severe. But they say, hey, you're going to be okay enough to play. There could have been other stuff in there that the laxity in the joint could have led to a meniscus tear, a patella issue, or there's a number of different things that you could happen in there if it is indeed a different knee injury. I wouldn't be surprised if he just did re-aggravate the injury he had prior and he's just trying to manage it and they spin it in a way not, as concerning. But he's this year, and when you see things like that linger, it's like, is it ever really going to get better? It's unfortunate if it is a different knee injury from what he's dealing with before.
Yeah, absolutely. And, making progress last week and seeing him on the field and hoping that he was going to be much more of a factor at right tackle for the New England Patriots, which really has been a disaster of a position for the Pats, injury-wise at least, and especially with play on the field. Staying on the offensive line, Kyle, for just another moment, Cole Strange continues to be enigmatic, I think, in a lot of Patriots fans' estimation. We know all about the injury that he suffered during training camp, kept him out of training camp in the preseason for much of this. He's missed a handful of games this year. When he is in the lineup, it's looking like it's very difficult for him to be able to push off. It clearly looks like that knee is bothering him. In your analysis on Cole, what type of impact do you think this injury is having on him? And what can we expect in the future, in the immediate future, for Cole Strange? Because a very big key cog in this offensive line is him playing at the left guard position. Patriots haven't had that nearly enough this year.
He's had a rough go of it. Like you mentioned, he suffered the week of training camp, missed a huge chunk of it, and then kind of got back up into the swing of things slowly. He started playing all right, and then he suffered a re-injury in week 4, or at least what I assumed was they were looking at his leg again. And then he missed in week 5. And then I believe he missed week 6. It's been in and out there because he's been not practicing, getting out there. And we never really got an idea of what the injury was because, once again, it's happened at training camp. They could be more hush-hush about this stuff. But I didn't see the film breakdown of what it was when he did suffer in week 4. But, at this point, it's going to be a chronic thing. He's having problems, posting his leg into blocking. He probably can't drive his block or whichever way the knee injury is. So if it's a right knee injury, he's probably having a hard time driving to the left, and he can't post in the ground and hold himself up as the guy's there. So, do you the injury report? Yes. Do you hope it gets fully healthy? We're going to play? Yes. But at this point, it's probably going to be a chronic thing, and we'll probably get some more information at the end of the season. But he's just going to have to gut it out every week, and that will be unfortunate for Patriots fans. That'll be a way for a team rush them or find ways to beat them so you can get through and get to the quarterback.
Yeah, right about now, the New England Patriots definitely depleted along that line. Antonio Mafi, the rookie, has been doing the best job he possibly can, spelling Cole at the left guard position, but it's going to be very difficult for the Patriots moving forward if they're not getting that protection, especially along the interior for Mac Jones, and also helping to assist in run blocking as well. Patriots have been deficient in those areas. They've given it a best effort, but their best effort clearly hasn't been good enough for anyone that's been watching this team this year. On the cornerback side of things, Patriots obviously have their issues there with Christian Gonzalez, obviously the torn labrum, and Marcus Jones out with the same injury at this point. But Jonathan Jones has been hampered by an ankle injury, and now he's being listed with a knee injury. In the limited or in the sample size that you've had to work with, looking at Jonathan, looking how he's moving, he's making his cuts, things of that nature. He clearly looks like, at least in the last game or so, especially against the Las Vegas Raiders, that ankle or that injury still looks like it's hampering him. Is this something that the Patriots can continue to expect out of Jonathan?
It's hard to say with that one. Just gives context that he suffered the ankle injury just prior to weakness, kept him out of the next 3 games. He was able to return to play in week 5, played in 67% of the snaps, but like you said, he's hampered by it. We don't know the exact specifics of the injury. When I see somebody out that long, was there some type of high ankle sprain? I know in practice you're not doing as much contact, so you shouldn't be having that, but sometimes people could still fall over, twist their ankle funny, what have you. But the fact that it's now a knee, I'm sure that's some type of compensation injury where he's trying to push out the ankle, can't quite get as much, and the knee starts getting affected. And sometimes you can see the kinetic chain where you see more in the hip and others. So you hate seeing it because he's an older player. He wants to be out there and play, and he has the knowledge. It's just he doesn't have the availability, through keep his body healthy. So I wish I had more information on that, but it's been batty trying to figure out what's going on with him because every week it was like, okay, he might go, and then he doesn't. And there's no film to even look at to see what he did, which makes it really hard to figure it out. But a quarterback with an ankle injury is just not a good combination.
Yeah, absolutely. And he definitely does look like he is being hampered by it. And of course, the Patriots' issues along this cornerback group right now are definitely contributing to a lot of the difficulty that they're having obviously on defense, and on offense, they continue to struggle as well. I wouldn't really be doing my job unless I closed the show today by asking you about wide receiver Tyquan Thornton. Thornton has been often injured. We know that there are some questions about fragility when it comes to his build, his makeup, but the Patriots also need outside receiving help, and they need someone that's capable of stretching the field. I know he's coming off of a shoulder injury as opposed to a lower body injury. Are there any limitations right now in what you're seeing and knowing the type of injury he's had that could keep him from being that type of player, or do the Patriots really have to manage him the rest of the way?
So we don't know a ton about Tyquan Thornton right now. I believe he suffered his injury in the preseason. Sometimes you don't get a good view on that. It looked like an AC joint sprain at the time when I did see whatever video was available. We do know that he suffered the collarbone fracture last year, which kept him out. And sometimes that stuff is unfortunate, just how you get driven into the turf. The team will have to continue managing him, not because he's not good enough or injury prone, things like that, but just you have so much other issues with the depth of the wide receivers, especially concussions with Juju Smith-Schuster, Demario Douglas, and then Kayshon Boutte deal with his hamstring and whatnot. Yeah. You want to make sure that you're not asking too much of these guys or Tyquan Thornton, that you can't keep him healthy and then you have nobody later on in the season.
Absolutely. No, and it's definitely a concern for Patriots fans who are clamoring for some playmakers on the wide receiver position, or really at any pass catching position, but it has been a position as well, especially on offense, that has been decimated by injury. So, Kyle, what can I say? Thank you so much for the update on the massive list of walking wounded for the Patriots, whether we're talking guys that are scheduled or may not be playing in this week's game, and also those that are on injured reserve right now. It's definitely a huge help to our listeners. We appreciate it. Before I let you go, please let everyone know where they can catch all of your great written work, verbal work, and what we can look forward to throughout the season in terms of coverage from you, my friend.
Yep. So you find all my work at Banged Up Bill. I do a lot of stuff with the Buffalo Bills also do a weekly AFC East injury preview that covers the entire division. So if you're looking for Patriots information, I'm trying to scour anything I can to give you some context. And like I was talking to Mike before the show, it's hard to find information on Patriots injuries, but if I can find video, if I can find sources, I try to aggregate all that stuff so you can at least have a more fuller picture of what's going on with the injuries, even though not a lot comes out of New England. So you can find, like I said, my work at bangedupbills.com. You can find me on Twitter or X, or whatever it is called, Facebook, Reddit, Instagram at bangedupbills. But injuries and try to give context to everything, because sometimes not a lot's given out, but the professional eye can sometimes give context where it can't be found.
Absolutely. And folks, Kyle is among the best in the business at what he does. We absolutely value his wisdom and counsel, and we thank him for providing it today. Kyle, we definitely look forward to doing this again during the next Bills week that's coming up in a few months here on Locked On Patriots. But in the meantime, a tip of the cap and a nod of the gods to your knowledge. Thank you so much for joining me here today, my friend.
Thank you, Mike.
Absolutely.
Pats fans, thank you once again for listening to today's pregame episode of Locked On Patriots. Don't forget, we'll be back here post-game on Sunday to bring you all the ins and outs, the ups and downs of the Patriots matchup with the Buffalo Bills. And, of course, on Monday, the Green Man himself, the legendary Thomas Murphy of E2Gsports.com, drops by, and we'll break it all down for you and even have a mailbag question for Mailbag Monday waiting in the wings. Once again, I am Mike DeBate, and I thank you all for making Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage. Until next time, folks, continue to stay safe, stay well, and be the change you wish to see in the world. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you back here again on the next episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast.